Have you ever heard someone say that an annulment is just a Catholic version of divorce? Well, today I'm going to reveal the truth that will surprise you and maybe even change the way you see marriage in the Catholic Church forever. If you're Catholic, curious about the faith, or want to know the latest about marriage annulment in the Catholic Church, stay tuned. This video will unpack what an annulment really is, why the Church allows it, and how it's completely different from divorce. In fact, the last part of this video is something you should never miss. First, let's get this straight. In the Catholic Church, marriage is not just a contract. It's a sacred covenant designed by God Himself. Jesus said clearly, "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder." Mark 10 verse 9. This means a valid sacramental marriage lasts a lifetime. No court or lawyer can break that spiritual bond. So, does the Church contradict itself by granting annulments? Actually, no, and here's why. Marriage holds a place of profound significance within the Catholic Church. Far more than a mere contract or a social arrangement. It is a sacred covenant, an institution established by God Himself for the good of the spouses and the flourishing of human society. The Church's teaching on marriage is deeply rooted in Scripture, upheld by centuries of tradition, and enriched by theological reflection. Few topics within Catholic life are as misunderstood as the concept of annulment. Many people, both inside and outside the Church, mistakenly believe an annulment is just Catholic divorce. However, this is far from accurate. While the Catholic Church firmly upholds the indissolubility of valid sacramental marriage, it also recognizes that in some cases, what appeared to be a valid marriage was, in fact, invalid from the beginning due to certain defects. The process that determines this is known as a declaration of nullity, commonly referred to as an annulment. The Catholic Church teaches that marriage was instituted by God from the very beginning of creation. In the book of Genesis, we read how God created man and woman in His image and established a union between them. Therefore, man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh, Genesis 2 verse 24. This union reflects God's own faithfulness and creative love. For baptized Christians, marriage is not only a natural institution, but also a sacrament. This means it is an outward sign instituted by Christ that confers grace. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, CCC 1601, defines it. The matrimonial covenant, by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole of life, is by its nature ordered toward the good of the spouses, and the procreation and education of offspring. This covenant between baptized persons has been raised by Christ the Lord to the dignity of a sacrament. As a sacrament, marriage sanctifies a couple, enabling them to love each other with Christ's own love and to witness this love to the world. Catholic teaching emphasizes two essential properties of marriage: unity and indissolubility. Unity means marriage is an exclusive bond between one man and one woman. Indissolubility means that this bond, once validly entered into, cannot be broken by any human power. This permanence reflects the unbreakable covenant between Christ and His Church. Jesus Himself reaffirmed this in the Gospels. "What therefore God has joined together, let no man put asunder," Mark 10 verse 9. To understand annulments, one must first understand the Church's unwavering teaching on the permanence of marriage. Jesus Christ taught clearly that marriage is a lifelong, unbreakable covenant. "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder," Mark 10 verse 9. Once a valid sacramental marriage is consummated, it endures until the death of one of the spouses. This teaching forms the bedrock of the Catholic view of marriage, a faithful, exclusive, and lifelong union reflecting Christ's unbreakable love for His Church. Marriage in Catholic teaching has a twofold purpose: the good of the spouses. This includes mutual help, growth in holiness, and deep, faithful love. The procreation and education of children. Openness to life is an essential aspect. Couples are called to welcome children lovingly and to raise them in the faith. This teaching opposes any deliberate act that would render procreation impossible, affirming the inseparable connection between the unitive and procreative meanings of the marital act. The Catholic vision of marriage recognizes the equal dignity of husband and wife. While their roles may differ in certain contexts, both are called to mutual self-giving and respect. St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, often cited, Ephesians 5 verses 21 to 33, emphasizes that husbands are to love their wives as Christ loves the church with sacrificial love, and wives are to respect and support their husbands. This mutual love mirrors Christ's love for his people. Because marriage is so significant, the church requires careful preparation. Couples typically undergo premarital instruction to understand the responsibilities they are about to undertake. Valid marriage requires free consent. No one can be forced into marriage. Proper intention. Couples must intend lifelong fidelity, openness to children, and mutual support. Absence of impediments. Certain conditions, like close kinship or prior valid marriage, can render a marriage invalid. The church recognizes that married life can face many trials: financial stress, illness, infertility, or relational difficulties. Hence, the church offers pastoral support, counseling, and prayer to help couples remain faithful to their vows. In cases of serious harm, like abuse, the church may support legal separation and civil divorce for protection, but still upholds that a valid sacramental marriage cannot be dissolved by civil decree. Marriage and family are the fundamental building blocks of society. Strong Catholic families form domestic churches, fostering faith and virtue. The church sees healthy marriages as vital to the well-being of the whole community. In today's world, where marriage is often misunderstood or devalued, Catholic couples are called to witness the beauty of faithful, life-giving love. Their commitment serves as a living sign of God's enduring love for humanity. An annulment is not Catholic divorce. Rather, it is a declaration by the church that a valid marriage was never present from the beginning due to a lack of essential elements, like consent or capacity. If granted, this frees the individuals to marry validly in the church. Imagine a wedding ceremony with flowers, music, and vows, but hidden behind that beautiful day might be something you can't see. Maybe one person never truly intended to be faithful or was forced into it, or hit a serious addiction. If something so essential was missing, then the sacramental bond never took root. That's what a declaration of nullity means. The vows were invalid from the start. An annulment does not dissolve an existing valid marriage. Instead, it is a declaration by a competent ecclesiastical tribunal that a valid marriage, as the church understands it, never actually came into existence in the first place. For example, a couple may have gone through a wedding ceremony and lived together as husband and wife. However, if certain essential conditions for a valid marriage were missing at the time of the vows, such as genuine consent capacity or intent, then no valid sacramental bond was ever created despite appearances. Annulments are not rubber-stamped overnight. It's a careful process guided by church law and compassion. It starts when one spouse asks the local marriage tribunal for an investigation. Witnesses share what they know. A canon lawyer called the defender of the bond argues to uphold a marriage if possible, because the church always presumes marriages are valid until proven otherwise. If the tribunal finds convincing evidence that an essential element was missing from day one, a declaration of nullity is granted. This frees the individuals to marry again in the church. Because the truth is, spiritually, they were never truly married in the eyes of God. The Catholic Church's teaching on annulment upholds both the sanctity of marriage and compassion for the brokenness of human relationships. By faithfully discerning whether a true marriage existed, the Church serves truth and justice while caring for souls in need of healing. In this way, annulments reflect the Church's commitment to protect marriage as a sacred covenant and to accompany her children with mercy and understanding. The Church recognizes several possible grounds for declaring a marriage null. Some of the most common are lack of canonical form. Catholics are required to marry according to the canonical form, before a priest and 2 witnesses. Marriages outside this form, without proper dispensation, are invalid. Defect of consent. Valid marriage requires free and informed consent. If one or both parties did not freely choose marriage due to fear, force, or grave external pressure, the consent is invalid. Psychological incapacity. If either party was unable to assume the essential obligations of marriage due to psychological immaturity or serious personality disorder, the marriage may be invalid. Fraud or deceit. If one party deliberately deceived the other about an essential aspect, for instance hiding infertility, addiction, or intention to have children, this can render the consent invalid. Error about a person or quality. If a marriage was entered under grave misrepresentation, for instance, marrying someone believing they were someone else, or completely misunderstanding their true identity in an essential matter, this could also be a ground for nullity. An annulment is not simply an administrative procedure, but a canonical judicial process. The steps generally include: petition. One spouse, the petitioner, submits a formal request to the local diocesan tribunal, explaining why they believe the marriage was invalid. Investigation. The tribunal gathers testimony from both spouses and witnesses who knew the couple before and during the marriage. Documents, such as marriage and baptismal certificates, are also reviewed. Defense of the bond. The church appoints an official called the defender of the bond, whose role is to argue for the validity of the marriage whenever possible, ensuring a fair process. Judgment. A panel of canon lawyers evaluate the evidence and decides whether the marriage is proven invalid. If granted, the declaration of nullity means that the parties are free to marry in the church, assuming no other impediments exist. An annulment has several important effects. Freedom to remarry. If the marriage is declared null, both parties are free to marry again in the church. Legitimacy of children. Children born of a putatively valid marriage are always considered legitimate. Annulment does not affect their status in any way. Pastoral care. Often, annulments provide spiritual and emotional healing for individuals who have suffered through a deeply troubled union. It may interest you to know that civil divorce is different from annulment. While civil divorce is the legal ending of a marriage contract according to civil law, it concerns property, custody, and civil rights, but does not dissolve the spiritual bond of a valid marriage in the eyes of the church. Annulment, in contrast, does not end a marriage, but declares that a true sacramental bond never existed from the beginning. Therefore, the parties are morally free to enter a valid marriage in the future. Incidentally, annulment is not automatic. It is not granted merely because the marriage ended badly. Evidence must prove that the bond was invalid from the start. Length of marriage or having children doesn't guarantee validity. A long marriage or having children does not necessarily mean consent was validly given. Annulment is pastoral, not punitive. It helps the faithful align their lives with the truth and live fully within the church. While there may be administrative fees to cover tribunal costs, no one should be denied an annulment process because of financial hardship. Many dioceses waive fees for those in need. Pope Francis has encouraged reforms to make the process more accessible, faster, and less burdensome for the faithful. Did you know that Pope Francis made a groundbreaking change to how the Catholic Church handles marriage annulments? Many people still don't know this, but in 2015 he issued two very important documents, and they changed the lives of countless Catholic couples around the world. So, if you've ever wondered what an annulment really involves and how Pope Francis made it faster, simpler, and more compassionate, stick around, because this might just surprise you. First, let's clear something up. In 2015, Pope Francis issued two documents called motu proprio. Now, what's a motu proprio? It's a special document issued directly by the Pope himself, on his own initiative, usually to clarify or establish new rules, especially legal ones. These two motu proprios are called Mitus Iodex Dominus Jesus, which means the Lord Jesus, the gentle judge. This one reformed the annulment process for the Western Church, also known as the Latin Church. Mitus et Misericors Jesus, which means gentle and merciful Jesus. This one reformed the annulment process for the Eastern Catholic churches. Well, before these changes, getting an annulment in many parts of the world was painfully slow, complicated, and sometimes nearly impossible. Couples could wait years, or never even get a hearing at all. Pope Francis wanted to change that. He wanted the process to be quicker, less expensive, and more caring. Truly pastoral. So, back in October 2014, he gathered a team of Vatican legal experts to help him make it happen. After months of work, these reforms took effect on December 8th, 2015, which was also the opening day of the special year of mercy. So what exactly changed? In simple terms, The documents start with an introduction where Pope Francis explains his reasons. Then, they provide a new set of canons. That means they actually replace parts of the official church law on annulments. Finally, each document includes clear procedural rules, telling bishops and church courts exactly how to carry out the new, faster process. And this wasn't just the Pope's idea alone. The 2014 Synod of Bishops, a big meeting of bishops from around the world, had already asked for this. Many bishops felt that the annulment process should be easier to access, quicker to resolve, and, if possible, free of charge. They even suggested dropping the requirement for a second judgment to confirm an annulment, letting local bishops handle clear cases directly, creating a simplified procedure for obvious cases of invalidity. Of course, not every bishop agreed with every detail, but they all stressed the most important point: finding out the truth about whether a marriage was valid or not. One more thing. These reforms don't mean the process is automatically free everywhere. After all, dioceses still need to pay the people working on these cases. But the Pope did ask for the cost to be kept as low as possible, so that money would not be an obstacle for families in need. So, there you have it. Pope Francis' annulment reforms were a huge step toward a more merciful, accessible, and compassionate church, one that understands the real struggles families face. Let's bust a few myths right now. It doesn't make children illegitimate. The church honors, protects children's dignity, always. It's not revenge or punishment. It's a healing process. It's not automatic. Even if a marriage was short or difficult, evidence must show it was invalid from the start. And here's the good news. Pope Francis has made the process simpler and faster, so couples seeking healing aren't stuck in endless bureaucracy. Why does all this matter? Because truth matters. Marriage matters, and people deserve freedom, healing, and a chance to live fully within the faith. Annulment helped the church protect the sacredness of marriage and guide people toward genuine new beginnings, rooted in truth and love. If you or someone you know is struggling with broken marriage, know this: the church does not abandon you. She stands ready to walk with you toward hope and wholeness. So, next time someone says annulment is just a Catholic loophole, share this video with them. Let's spread the truth together. If you found this helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and share with family and friends. Drop your questions in the comments. I love hearing from you and answering your faith questions. And don't forget to check out my other videos on Catholic teaching on tithe, sexuality, artificial intelligence, and abortion. God bless you. And remember, the truth will always set us free, even when it comes to healing broken marriages. God bless you. See you in the next video.